Kasma. She was Brunei PR to ASEAN. So she's going to monitor what I'm going to say and then report to the CPR. Second thing is I acknowledge all the distinguished participants, also the speakers today. Discussion, I think, is very timely to see what foresee what will be Vietnam chairmanship. Unfortunately, the PR of Vietnam is not here. He is in Hanoi. He's actually supposed to be a better resource person who talking about his chairmanship, Vietnam chairmanship for 2020. Anyway, I tried my best to explain what's Vietnam chairmanship in 2020 based on my my conversation, my discussion, and as well what I understand regarding Vietnam chairmanship in 2020. If you, I don't know whether you are aware what's the theme of Vietnam chairmanship 2020. The theme Vietnam choose is cohesive and responsive. What the meaning of this, based on my understanding, so whatever I explain is based on my understanding, so probably I will also encourage Habibie Center to organize similar event next year when Vietnam, PR Vietnam will give better explanation. The reason why, the reason because usually in part of ASEAN works or ways, Vietnam will chair next year, and then with the first meeting will be ASEAN Ministerial Meeting Retreat and early mid of January, and there where the foreign minister of Vietnam will explain much detail about Vietnam theme and the priority and also objective during their chairmanship in 2020. So that's why better wait, I think much better wait from better explanation and better details on this regard. However, as I said, I will try my best on this, explaining about Vietnam chairmanship. The theme cohesive and responsive. What's the meaning of cohesive? Cohesive, at least there are 5 elements. First, further strengthen ASEAN unity and solidarity. Second, regional integration and connectivity. Third, promote ASEAN commonality and awareness. I will explain a little bit on awareness. Deepen ASEAN engagement with the global community. Actually, we already started in 2011 during Indonesian chairmanship. If you remember, by Concord 3, that we are ASEAN have to be engaged and contribute in the global community. And lastly is enhance ASEAN institutional capacity. I will explain so further on this. This is actually the 5 elements on the cohesive, cohesive. First, cohesive, why the strengthen ASEAN unity and solidarity? Actually, this is Vietnam is trying to bring ASEAN how to respond, strengthen its unity in responding the changing of the regional and global. You know, as you must aware what's happened in the world nowadays. So how we ASEAN can to adapt and also address as well as respond. In order to do that, we need to strengthen our unity and solidarity. This is a must, and it is always our continued effort to maintain our unity and solidarity. Regional integration and connectivity. As you know, we continue to strengthen our regional integration, especially on economic and also connectivity. How we further implement impact the master plan of ASEAN connectivity. Promote ASEAN community and awareness. This will be interesting because we still continue to how to make the public aware of an ASEAN. Fortunately, based on the recent poll, it's just good to have that 90% of ASEAN citizens, they are aware about ASEAN. They understand, aware. Doesn't mean understand, aware. Understand different things. Because unfortunately, only 1/3 understand about ASEAN, especially the three pillars: political, security, economic, social culture. So awareness is good. There's good number of awareness in ASEAN and as a decent ASEAN citizen. But understanding ASEAN, this is much easier. Still, continue struggle to to make ASEAN citizen more understanding about especially on the three pillars. Oh, I also forgot, as I said, regional Indonesian connectivity. Sorry, I forgot one point. ASEAN also what do you address about the Industrial Revolution 4.0? This is important. This is everybody now talking about 4.4 IR. To be honest, I don't have any full understanding about this, but this is an ASEAN now how to address it, because especially the millennial, they're much better in how to utilize it, but also have the negative impact from this for IR. So back to the awareness. Interestingly, on the awareness based on the recent poll, if they aware of ASEAN, what ASEAN most benefit for them, and 70% is about economy. Interestingly, so I thought political security is much they aware, but 70% what they will be benefit from ASEAN is economic. 64% benefit on peace security, 50% better quality, and 40% access to job. So there's still, it's not easy. Still not easy to have access for them to possible working to other ASEAN member states. So this the awareness that we are, at least in my point of view, that we need to further work on this. And the fourth is debate engagement. As I said, strong cooperation with partners. We have our dialogue partners, we have sectoral partners, and we are development partners. This year, we had one new development partner, Chile, joined. Previously, only Germany and then Swiss now joined. Sectoral, we have Pakistan, we have Swiss, we have Norway, we have Turkey. So we have also, our sectoral, and we foresee that it's possible, increasing country want to engage with ASEAN. I know Iran also wants to have a status. Uni Emirat Arab also request to have a status, and many others. I think about 10 or 11 or more countries want to have engaged with, to not only engage but to have a status with ASEAN. So the existing partners that we have now, how we strengthen our peace and sustainable development with our partners, and addressing all the challenges that we are faced, and also how to implement our plan of action next year. Is also one of the aim that Vietnam has to encourage us is finalizing plan of action. There are, I think, 6 plan of action that we need to finalize. ASEAN Russia, ASEAN US, ASEAN Canada, ASEAN India, EU, and New Zealand. New Zealand that we have to finalize. So there are 6 plan of action that will be finished next year, and we have to finish it completely by before mid of next year. So we will be, especially the PR, the host of the negotiate, discussed by the Committee of Permanent Representative, the CPR, starting early next year. Actually, the discussion already started this year, but in the form of the working group. Oh, this actually, I also want to mention now he's just arrived. This is the UK new UK ambassador to ASEAN. John, please. So he just presented his credential, I think, last week. Yeah. And he will start his jobs immediately. So UK now, they're very interesting. UK now assigned fully dedicated ambassador to ASEAN, but UK is not yet have any status ASEAN. But this is show. No, it is good. But this show. But how ASEAN is many countries interested to engage with ASEAN, but and we welcome it, of course, how we work together in addressing any issue challenges in the region, but also in global. And lastly, on the cohesive is enhance ASEAN institution and mechanism. Need to strengthen the mechanism and the study of function, well met the demand time to current regional international situation. There's some criticism about the mechanism of ASEAN. Sometimes it's too bureaucratic. So how we do, but how to work, less bureaucratic. But this is still a challenge because it's a nature of most of us is not only diplomat but also as a bureaucrat. So, but this is a challenge that here we will discuss it how to streamline our function, and also other mechanism that we need to review, as Vietnam mentioned several times based on my discussion and when also in the meeting. They want to review the work of ASEAN Regional Forum because it is already 10 years ago that we are documented that probably need to be reviewed and look into whether it is sufficient or whether this they will be able to address with the current challenge. The other thing, also review the ASEAN blueprint. Next year also midterm, because we have a blueprint for 2025, and then we need to so we need to review. And this on the cohesive, responsive, actually I already a little bit touched on it, and ASEAN should be proactive and creative, and how to address non-traditional challenges, and again, Industrial Revolution 4.0. And this is more in general, and I also learned from at least from the report from other sectoral other pillar. For example, for the economic, based on their last meeting, they have also economic priority deliverables. First, promoting interregional economic linkage, strengthening ASEAN integration and connectivity. Second, strengthening partnership, peace and sustainable development, strengthening ASEAN role in sustainable global economy. So sustainable will be continue starting by Thailand. ASEAN will also continue what has been delivered and been achieved by Thailand and continue to strengthening. Enhancing adaptive capacity performance of ASEAN and strengthening ASEAN capacity in respond to global change is also similar with the, in general what Vietnam would like to achieve. So at least this from the economic priority. I haven't seen about the social culture. So usually there will be political security, priority, economic, and also social culture. But at least, what I gather now is economic and in general, but social culture I haven't seen or I haven't read the on the for social culture. Now the second issue that I want to discuss as a moderator also underline, what's the hope and expectation for Indonesia? First, we support the idea of Vietnam, especially about about enhanced ASEAN institution, ASEAN mechanism, and particularly. As you know, this year, President Joko Widodo inaugurated the new ASEAN building. We like to see encourage more meeting in Jakarta. At what level? Probably not in the minister yet or senior official. At least in the working group. We want to have more meeting in ASEAN Secretariat. The reason is, human is not only because of Indonesia. Hopefully, to have more coordination, more meeting in ASEAN together and parallel. In the past, it's difficult to have a parallel meeting because we only have one representative room or hall, ASEAN hall. But now we have like 20 rooms. So there's a new building, not to mention two other rooms in the heritage building. So if you have more meeting in ASEAN Secretariat, and if it is parallel or back to back, hopefully there will be more coordination. This is always a challenge in ASEAN, how to coordinate not only within the pillar, but also across sectoral pillar. This is always the challenge that we are facing, and hopefully with more meeting in Jakarta will be at least minimize those challenges. Second, the implementation ASEAN Outlook on Indo-Pacific, as Moderator mentioned, and probably some of you already read in the newspaper or by President Joko Widodo or by Foreign Minister, included now also already mentioned that Indonesia will host ASEAN Indo-Pacific Infrastructure and Connectivity Forum. This concept, although it's already finalized, but almost finalized, but we're still discussing how to what will be the outcome, but we are still discussing internally in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But at least what we are in our mind, the meeting will consist of government official, business, and also this is actually that we are currently discussing and hopefully will be finalized soon. Third, further implementation of Impact 2025, infrastructure, digital innovation. This I want to stress. As you know, we have ASEAN have impact master plan of ASEAN connectivity. And you're also aware there are in other countries, our partner also have the same initiative. You have China with BRI, Japan with quality infrastructure, Korea, Republic of Korea with Northern, New Northern strategy, and other. This year, under the Thailand chairmanship, we tried to link some of this initiative. We have ASEAN plus 3 this is still a political document, all the political document. How we connecting all those initiatives with ASEAN. So this will be linked with each other as ASEAN. But we also have individually, like ASEAN China as Synergy, Impact, and BRI. We also have the vertical document, and also with Japan on the connectivity. Those all 3 political documents. Now our objective, our effort for next year, hopefully from Indonesia perspective, how we implement those political documents become a concrete activity, project, or whatever. This is we like to see, at least from the Indonesia, and I do believe from ASEAN side also on. This is not only just a political document, but also what's in the concrete implementation. For ASEAN, Regional Cooperative Partnership, we are already finished the text and now enter the legal scrubbing, and hopefully by before mid-year, the legal scrubbing will be hopefully already finished, so that will be signed in November, during November, the last summit in the next year. That we would like to see the ASEAN. Of course, we also hope it's continue 16 countries, as you were. India is facing difficulties, so currently the 15 is already more or less already agree on all the texts, but we still hope, wish that India will join ASEAN. Fifth, Timor-Leste application is also Indonesia would like to see. Why we like to have this? Because this year we already sent fact-finding mission on political security. The outcome is more or less okay, good, but based on our requirement, not only from political security, also and other pillars should also visit to have a fact-finding mission to Timor-Leste. And Indonesia is hoping that next year the fact-finding mission for economic pillar and then the social culture pillar could be realized. Because after those 3 fact-finding from 3 pillars, so we can then discuss how we plan for Timor-Leste application, whether to have roadmap or time frame, whatever. This will be decided next year, but we need to have all the input from 3 pillars. From we are already, as I said, political security, but we are waiting economic and social culture. Indonesia hope that it will be realized. I mean, the visit before mid-year. So by the July, when the foreign minister meeting, because all those will be report to the ASEAN Coordinating Council, which is all the foreign ministers. At least from Indonesia perspective, hope it can be finalized before the ASEAN Coordinating Council, so the foreign minister can have in-depth discussion before then report to the leaders in the last summit next year in November. Other priorities, this is probably anyone who would like to see more progress, is the COC, South China Sea. We already have first reading. We enter second reading. I should say, I didn't join this the meetings, but based on the report that I read, it's quite tough for the second reading because we need to have COC that's substantive, practical, and implementable. Of course, and also legally binding. But it's a very tough second reading, and especially this under the Vietnam chairmanship, because as you know, Vietnam is one of the claimant states. It's very tough, very tough. This year, because Thailand is not the claimant state, but chair is a claimant state. It's quite probably very tough. So I think this all that I can already mention, and in the Pacific, of course, we will work further with our partners on implementation. Some of them will be already stated. And on the cross-pillar issue, there's also another challenge that we are facing. One already mentioned, connectivity, but other is a blue economy. We need to also have further discussion on the blue economy because some of our partners encourage to have political document on couldn't say which country, but some countries to blue economy, but we in ASEAN need to have one understanding, one view about blue economy. So I think that's all that I can share. But this my staff also give me a note. This actually for Habibie Center on and all speaker. As you know, Indonesia will chair ASEAN in 2023. It will be a very busy year because not only as the ASEAN chair, Indonesia will host G20. So I will encourage our academician think tank to provide us with the input, idea, priorities that will be our chairmanship, our objective, our aim in 2023. So this all, ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, moderator, my brief about the Vietnam's chairmanship next year. And as moderator mentioned that next year also starting the Vietnam as the non-permanent member of the council. Actually, also next year, Vietnam also celebrate 20 years joining ASEAN. Oh, this my chair, my boss. This is coming, my boss. This Ambassador Passport from Thailand. She's here now, so I would like to also put on record to appreciate Chairmanship of Thailand. She's doing, tremendous job to finalize all outcome document and also achievement in during Thai chairmanship, and we are glad to be able to support Thai chairmanship, and we are continue support Vietnam for the next chairmanship. So with all, I conclude my brief Rezasyah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor, for the very comprehensive explanation and sharing with us what are some of the hopes and expectations of Indonesia towards Vietnam's chairmanship next year. And also thank you, Ambassador for joining us today. So maybe also just a disclaimer, we did try to invite the Ambassador of Vietnam to speak, who unfortunately had to attend the meeting in Vietnam, but we are trying to arrange another meeting next month, so we'll be very happy for everyone to join us for that as well. And for your suggestion for the Habibie Center to help with the recommendations for Indonesia's chairmanship in 2023, I think we'll be very happy to help with that as well later on. So next, I'd like to move on to our next speaker, Professor Aleksius, perhaps. If you would share us maybe from the academic point of view regarding Vietnam's chairmanship 2020. So the floor is yours.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. First of all, I'd like to thank the Habibie Center for inviting me to this discussion. I would like to share my ideas about this topic, Vietnam's ASEAN chairmanship in 2020, challenges and opportunities. I'm going to start with an outline of my presentation. I hope this can help you to follow the logic of my argument. I have 10 points here to be discussed with you. The first point is I want to see a little bit how important ASEAN is for Vietnam. So the importance of this regional cooperation, this regional platform of foreign policy, as far as Vietnam is concerned. And the second, Vietnam's economic momentum and growing competitiveness. And the third is Vietnam's complex interactions with China, great neighbor, Vietnam and great powers other than China. Mr. Ambassador has explained a little bit the theme, cohesive and responsive, but I'm going to go beyond that to see what kind of political discourses behind the choice of this theme and try to explore the meaning or the message behind these two words, cohesiveness and responsiveness. What kind of discourses that we can discuss in order to see the meaning, to explore the meaning behind the theme. Because I believe that the choice of this theme is not without reason. There are some political calculations behind it. And then we want to see chairmanship. And also, of course, I think we talk about Vietnam and South China Sea and code of conduct that is now being negotiated. It's still in the process, and we want to see how Vietnam would navigate its foreign policy, knowing that Vietnam is one of the most important claimants of the disputed islands in South China Sea. And we want to see also ASEAN's deepening economic interactions with China. It's also an important factor to be taken into account, to see this regional cooperation. And of course, we also include how the United States has reacted to that. And we want to give Donald Trump and of course the implications and some concluding remarks. So as you can see from these 10 points, what I try to do is to put Vietnam's chairmanship in its relevant context so that we can take some meaningful insights, and of course they are not presented in their absolute certainty because things do not happen yet. It is a matter of reasonable guessing what will be going on, how we anticipate that as far as Indonesia is concerned. And I hope we can use this presentation as a starting point for discussion. So I am not claiming that what I present here is certain, with full certainty. They are not meant to go in that direction, but just try to invite you to discuss by looking at the relevant context of Vietnam's chairmanship next year, 2020. Let us first of all look at this, and I want to start from quotation that I take from the book of Kishore Mahbubani and Jeffrey Sang. This is what they say. Given Vietnam's profound geopolitical concerns about a rising China, it clearly has the most to lose if ASEAN is weakened. ASEAN provides Vietnam with a valuable geopolitical buffer. So it is clearly in Vietnam's national interest to make a deep commitment to strengthen ASEAN. I think Vietnam has developed a foreign policy and tries to be committed to this regional cooperation, just like Indonesia, using this regional cooperation as an important platform, yeah? Especially in dealing with the great powers. And I believe that Vietnam is going to take very seriously the responsibility in order to make its chairmanship a success, yeah, in 2020. And the second point is that Vietnam feels quite comfortable with ASEAN's institutionalized consent for any type of political regime with its principle of non-interference. So I think Vietnam is happy with that. Yeah? With this principle of non-interference. They don't want people outside to interfere with their domestic affairs, the political system, and so everybody feels happy with that. But of course, for us, we can discuss, yeah, how far we can go with this principle of non-interference, yeah, taking into account the fact that there are so many issues now that are across national borders in their nature. So how ASEAN members, especially Vietnam, which is responsibility as chairman in 2020, is going to deal with these issues because they are the real issues, yeah, especially in democratic countries like Indonesia, yeah. The civil society groups, they want to see how the issue of democracy and human rights are going to be discussed, at least, yeah, to draw the attention of these 10 governments that they are going to discuss every year. And of course, the people want to see progress, yeah, not only in economic terms, but also in issues like this. And then I go to the next point about Vietnam's economic momentum and competitiveness. Yeah, I think they are doing quite well in economy. Yeah, as you can see, Vietnam has the highest economic growth among ASEAN countries, and I think they are very proud of that and very confident with the way they do things now and the way they build so many strategic partnerships with the great power. And as you can see, they are very committed to see how ASEAN can be an economic entity that is cohesive, but at the same time responsive to global challenges. Yeah, in the economy. It has also the growing capacity to compete regionally and globally. Yeah? If you follow the updates of the tally of medals, now Indonesia is in the third place. Yeah, far below Vietnam. Vietnam is the second. Philippines is the first. And I think also in sport they perform very well. And also the capital inflow is also on the rise, and it makes Vietnam's economy vibrant, yeah, high economic growth. And I think also Hanoi has a strong self-confidence. In the sense that they want to combine two different things. Yeah, first they are enthusiastic to join comprehensive and progressive transparency, CPTPP, and Vietnam is part of that. They are very confident, yeah, ready to compete with other developed economies, yeah, and very progressive economic cooperation. But at the same time, they want to combine it with the RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. And the next is Vietnam's multiple strategic partnerships in all directions. You can see that how Vietnam navigates foreign policy, yeah, giving the impression that it goes to all directions to build all these partnerships, and not committed to only one, but several of them. It's very interesting to see how they combine them, how to to promote their interest, yeah, vis-a-vis all these great powers. And next is these are the 5 priorities of Vietnam's ASEAN chairmanship, and for us in universities, of course we study all this, but what is more important is what is behind all this, because this is what is said on paper, yeah, and they are important, but what is more important as far as our rigorous discussion is concerned is what people do in the field, yeah, in order to implement all this, and how the contestation of interest among ASEAN countries, yeah, are played out, yeah. Because as much as we talk about cooperation among these 10 countries, I don't think that we should neglect also the fact that they are competing against each other in order to build, in order to engage with the external world. Yeah? For example, how they are competing to build access to China's growing market, or how they are competing to invite as much as possible foreign direct investment from China. But anyway, these are all the 5 priorities. Promoting ASEAN's role and active contributions to the maintenance of peace, security, and stability in the region. Promoting regional connectivity, enhancing the region's ability to adapt to and take advantage of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, rising awareness of ASEAN's identity, and fourth is stepping up partnership for peace and sustainable development with all countries all around the world and promoting ASEAN's role in and contribution to the international community, and then enhancing the ability to adapt and the effective operation of the ASEAN apparatus. So the main theme here is ASEAN unity. Yeah? How to keep it united in dealing with the external world. I think that is the main message behind these 5 priorities in order to see ASEAN more integrated, yeah, more cohesive as an entity, yeah, knowing that there are conflicting interests among 10 member countries, and I believe that Vietnam will do its best to come up with unity of voice, yeah? Not only in economic issues but also in other issues as well. Of course, it remains to be seen how this is implemented in reality, because it is not easy for Vietnam to combine and to find the agreements among these 10 member countries. And then I talk about political narratives or political discourses behind the theme, cohesive and responsive. Yes, they have chosen these 2 themes, very interesting, cohesive and responsive. But I try to make an interpretation behind this choice of this important theme. The first is that cohesive ASEAN is needed, yeah, to strengthen Vietnam's ground strategy to counterbalance China with its inevitable economic domination in Southeast Asia. So ASEAN is needed as a platform in order to deal with the great powers in a way that can be beneficial for ASEAN and of course for Vietnam itself. And the second, a cohesive ASEAN will serve as the regional platform to increase bargaining position in the negotiation for the final draft of COC in South China Sea. It is in the process now. I think I agree with Mr. Ambassador. It's not going to be easy. These discussions will be tough, but I think we will appreciate if ASEAN and China can formulate a final draft, yeah, in order to create stability that we all need, yeah, in order to create an external environment that is stable, secure, yeah, for all the member countries in this region. And the third is that Vietnam seeks to reproduce its economic success at the regional level, which will ultimately strengthen the legitimacy of its political regime inside and outside the country. So I think countries like this, they need a recognition. They need the system is good and is workable, and they want the external world to recognize them. They are seeking. I think it's just like China to show that our system works very well and it produces real benefits for our economy. And I think Vietnam is also in the same position to convince all of us that their system works very well and it is good for the people and they feel comfortable with that. These are the 3 political narratives that I think are behind the choice of this important theme, cohesive and responsive. Of course, yeah, in addition to economic issues, there are also, and they are the real issues here in this region. Yeah, the issue of human rights and democracy, genocide of the Rohingya people in Myanmar. It's a big issue, it's a global issue. And so I formulate here all in questions. These are not statements, that the questions. So because they are real issues, I don't think that we can avoid that. They are there, and we need to discuss them. What are the solutions that these 10 countries can try to find, so that it will add to the credibility of the regional cooperation. So the question, will ASEAN under Vietnam's chairmanship be willing to go the extra mile to pressurize Myanmar without violating its own principle of non-interference? So it's a big question for us. So how far we can go to, at least to discuss and to because I don't think that countries will be indifferent to this issue. Issues are there, and they demand our attention. At least we need to say something, how to deal with those issues, because it is in our yard. People are there, and we need to do something about it. And what is going to be done next year? Yeah, the repression of the opposition in Cambodia is also a big issue. Yeah, can ASEAN members come up with one voice so that the ruling party of Prime Minister Hun Sen might recognize the political rights of the opposition group? Problems there. Yes, it is a domestic issue, but it's about human being. This is about justice. People will seek the answer from ASEAN. How these 10 ASEAN countries would deal with it. Or are they going to stay indifferent? This is not our problem. This is a fully domestic problem. We don't want to violate our principle of non-interference or what? We don't know. But this, my point is that these are the real issues that are in front of us. So, what we are going to do with them? And also, there's also a question. Yeah, is Vietnam interested in dealing with the issue of human rights and democracy? Okay. Our observation so far is that in this region, in Southeast Asia, the primacy of the role of the state level in dealing with the issue of human rights remains a standard normative attitude among ASEAN members. So it is clearly mentioned in the ASEAN Charter how we protect the sovereignty so strong, not to be interfered by any external powers. Yeah, and we mentioned several times in the ASEAN Charter about this issue. Yeah, and we don't know what's going to be discussed next year. Yeah. Okay, I think Vietnam's chairmanship should also put in its wider context, yeah, in the sense that Vietnam has a multi-directional strategic partnership with great powers other than China, strategic partnership with the United States, with India, with Japan, and also with Russia. Yeah. So in all directions, they build and they navigate their foreign policy by inviting all these great powers to be in a strategic partnership with Hanoi. And then Vietnam's complex relationship with China. I think Vietnam is deeply embedded in deepening trade and investment relationship with China. Not only Vietnam, but also other ASEAN countries. Indonesia also is doing the same thing, even seeks to even increase it. Yeah? Because you neglect China at your own peril. They say today. So all these 10 ASEAN countries are, they are competing to build access to this growing economy. But there is also historical suspicions, yeah, and territorial disputes, Rezasyah, as we all know. Yeah. Vietnam's assertive policy as a climate, yeah, in South China Sea is hampered by the pragmatic attitude of other claimants. This is also a big challenge for Vietnam to see that other countries began to be more pragmatic. Yeah? As you can see in the policy of President Rodrigo Duterte, it's very different from his predecessor, although Permanent Court Arbitration has declared, yeah, the result of their decision, yeah. But yeah, this is the reality. China's strong economic relationship with Vietnam's immediate neighboring countries, Cambodia, of course, yeah, and also Laos, yeah. And I think it's also Indonesia's reluctance to revitalize its traditional leadership role in ASEAN due to President Jokowi more attention to domestic agenda. I mean, we can discuss about it, but I think that as far as our president is concerned, foreign policy is more about instrumental meaning in order to accomplish the domestic agenda. I don't think that he wants to project himself as an international statesman, but he wants to leave a legacy as a domestic reformer, and how to use foreign policy in order to make his domestic agenda successful. So it's a big challenge, yeah? And I think the question is Indonesia still willing to play a leading role, or to borrow the concept of Mahbubani, is Indonesia willing to be a natural custodian of ASEAN cooperation, like Germany and France in European Union? So these are the things that we need to discuss further, how they are going to affect this regional cooperation. And of course, like what Pak Ambassador has said, this is my own interpretation. I might be wrong, but I think there are different interpretations about this COC, and that's why discussions are going to be tough. Yeah? It's going to be very not easy. Yeah? To produce a document that would be binding, we hope, yeah? And also acceptable to everyone. But these are the different interpretations that they have. Yeah. For instance, as far as ASEAN is concerned, COC is part of rules-based regional architecture and should be binding. That is what we expect to have, yeah, to make sure that it can contribute to regional stability. But I think as far as China is concerned, my interpretation or my observation is that COC serves to manage interactions among claimants without changing China's de facto control. Because China has built military infrastructures in those islands, and I don't think that it is easy to change the reality in the field. And if they discuss things they are honest. They have to be open to all the reality that is there, yeah, as a challenge for coming up with one draft, yeah, to be accepted by all. An emphasis on ASEAN centrality, of course, and obedience to international law and freedom of navigation. This is all, I think, interest of all countries here in Southeast Asia. I think China insists that no international law is violated, yeah, and it is a matter of defending China's rightful sovereignty over there. It's like that, yeah, and security issues to be discussed through ASEAN mechanisms. Mechanisms are there, and ASEAN has those mechanisms to discuss things, but I'm sorry to put bahasa Indonesia here, but I think China would object any interference from other data from the outside, because it is just a matter between China and ASEAN. There's no way that we can go beyond that. Yeah, this is our issue here. Yeah, let us discuss among us and don't let other people interfere unnecessarily. Capitalizing on normative and moral exhortation. Yeah, it's a typical policy of combination of small powers and middle powers. Yeah. We want to defend international norms, yeah. But yeah, China can also use economic instruments, the trade, foreign direct investment, infrastructure financing to co-op ASEAN members. I think it has done with Cambodia, and I didn't think that there is any reason to prevent it from doing the same thing for other Asian countries if there is a need to do so, yeah, and that is instrument that effective, yeah, as far as trade power is concerned. This is what we learn in international relations. China's economic leadership is preferable while hegemony or domination is rejected. Of course, that's the standpoint of countries in South Asia. Leadership, okay, yeah. Because it is also good for economy in Southeast Asia, but hegemony, no. Empire, no. Control over policy facilitates the maritime leg of Belt and Road Initiative. And then Vietnam at the signing of RCEP in 2020, I believe that Vietnam will do its best to convince India about the strategic importance of RCEP to substantiate India's Act East policy. So it remains to be seen whether India can be convinced that India should be part of RCEP or not. 2020, let us see. But let us see. Yeah. So it remains to be seen how India will deal with this dilemma. To opt out from RCEP would be an end to its Act East policy. Yeah? But to sign RCEP would be to sacrifice the economic interests of some important domestic political constituents of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. India is in a dilemma, yeah? And we want to see how India will try to find a solution to this dilemma next year. And Vietnam and the Indo-Pacific Cooperation, Vietnam would be committed to the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific, but at the same time, welcome the engagement of other great powers like Japan, India, US to counterbalance China's growing influence. Yes, Hanoi will accept ASEAN outlook on Indo-Pacific, but not at the expense of strategic partnership with all these other great powers. Vietnam would also welcome Indonesia's initiative to host the Indo-Pacific Infrastructure and Connectivity Forum in 2020. So Indonesia has planned to do that in next year, but mainly on the basis of a pragmatic consideration to support this economic development. So, concluding remarks. This is my conclusion. So first, Vietnam holds ASEAN chairmanship in the midst of a rapidly changing environment, which requires the diplomatic skill to manage for Vietnam itself and ASEAN as a whole. Second, ASEAN is an important regional platform for its foreign policy, in the sense that its bargaining power can be enhanced in managing its complex relationship with rising China. Under Vietnam's chairmanship, there is a challenge of persuading India to be part of RCEP. It remains to be seen what concessions will be given to New Delhi to ensure its full participation in RCEP in 2020. It is very unlikely that the issue of human rights and democracy will be a priority in the agenda, as it may create obstacles towards ASEAN unity. The discussion of COC South China Sea in 2020 has remained different interpretation between ASEAN and China regarding the content and enforcement of the agreement. The combination of a pragmatic attitude of some members in competing to gain China's economic favor and Indonesia's reluctance to revitalize its traditional relationship constitutes a real challenge for Vietnam to enhance ASEAN's cohesiveness and responsiveness. Under Vietnam's chairmanship, ASEAN needs to convince the United States, especially President Donald Trump, that its indifferent attitude toward ASEAN can be damaging to its strategic interest in the region, and it may lead to disturbing this equilibrium. And with that, I end my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Aleksius, for the very interesting and enlightening presentation, especially for raising some of the difficult challenges that Vietnam will face in 2020. So last but not least, I'd like to turn to our final speaker, Dr. Rezasyah, to share your insights on Vietnam's chairmanship. So, Dr. Rezasyah.
Thank you very much, Moderator. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, friends, students, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be upon you. Thank you very much for the Habibie Center for organizing this event. You have been consistently following the aspirations and advices of our former late President Habibie. Peace be upon him. And I'm a bit trembling because I'm surrounded by my teachers around me. On my 12 o'clock, I have Bapak Ibrahim. And then also on my 12 o'clock, I have Pak Hasim Jalal. On my 1 o'clock, I have Bapak CPF 25. And then earlier on, I also have my teacher over here, Bapak Jamil Medan Flores. Mabuhay, Bapak. So, it's an honor to be here. The topic is Outlook on Vietnam's Chairmanship on ASEAN, Hopes and Expectations. The good thing of becoming the last person to talk is the most main ideas have been expressed by the earlier speakers. Thank you very, very much, Pak Dubes, and also Pak Aleksius Jemadu. So I will just only put some highlight of my thought. Let's go to the next slide, please. Well, as chair of ASEAN, this is what Vietnam is going to do. One, as spokesperson for 10-member regional organization. Secondly, as chief executive in chairing and facilitating official meetings and task force. Thirdly, tabling new initiatives and programs to advance regional cooperation. And four, doing informal role as a consensus builder and to exhibit leadership and diplomatic acumen to find common ground among diverging views. Well, this is not easy. This is challenging because in Indonesia, we believe that if we point one finger to your neighbor, 3 fingers are pointing back to us actually. So I hope Vietnam can play well with its role as the chairman of ASEAN. Okay, the objective of this dialogue is to discuss what opportunities and challenges faced Vietnam in its upcoming chairmanship of ASEAN in 2020. Secondly, to reflect on the main outcomes, issues arising from, the 35th ASEAN Summit and related meetings, and how this will impact ASEAN in 2020. 3. To produce possible recommendation for Vietnam regarding its ASEAN chairmanship in year 2020. Well, with regard to what opportunities and challenges face Vietnam, in my opinion, Vietnam is very confident to perform its role. This is due to the stable national leadership, a hard-working tradition of its society, and its proven capacity as a fast learner when it comes to global competition. With regard to this number 1, allow me to share with you my experience in dealing with helping Vietnam to produce coffee and training them with silat. I recall sometime in year 76, the then Vietnam top leader came to Indonesia. They were greeted by Pak Harto, our great leader. They shook hands. They had respect for each other. Because the two countries gained their independence through blood, sweat, and tears and praying. At that time, Pak Harto said privately through his interpreter, what's his name? The father of our friend, Siraj. Widodo Setio. Thank you, Bapak. Well, as leaders, they understand the feeling of each other. Pak Harto said, all right, I will appreciate Vietnam, I love Vietnam. Look, I'm wearing your watch, wristwatch. I always wear it on my left hand. I don't know what's the meaning, why he put it on the left hand. Does it mean communism or what? I don't know. And then Pak Harto said, okay, the moment the season is not so good in Vietnam, you have problem with the paddy production. I will send you about 2 million tons in my at the time, rice. And then you return them back to me when the time is convenient for you. Because Indonesia didn't want to challenge the pride of the Vietnamese. And then Pak Harto also said, we find that we have similar fertile land. Coffee good for me is also good for you. Why don't you send us your best engineers, your best managers, your best coffee plantation people come to Indonesia. I will inform my governor at the time, my governor, Yasir Hadipuroto from Lampung, to help train them. It was 1976. Today, Vietnam is our main competitor in coffee export. That's number 1. Number 2 is silat. Well, if you want to know how good is silat, ask Pak Prabowo, because in the last SEA Games we won silat. But actually, the Vietnamese, they are progressing. They are beginning to produce gold medals in silat. So this shows that Vietnamese are strong people, committed people, and ready to learn. So luckily, Vietnam is the next chairman of ASEAN. It's good for ASEAN as a whole because we have a strong leadership as an institution. And then Vietnam also has domestic confidence, considering Vietnam is the fastest growing economy in Southeast Asia, with a GDP growth of 7%, well above the region's average of 4%. We in Indonesia are still struggling. I must have you not know what is our level. 5.0, 4.9, or 4.7. It depends on what statistical base we are using. Next, please. Okay. In my opinion, there is a tendency to perform very well due to the stable national, due to a strong domestic pressure to offset the risk emanating from the rising dependence on external partners, where Vietnam needs to enhance and strengthen intra-ASEAN trade. This is data coming from the investors in Vietnam. And then my concern is on Hanoi's theme for the 2020 ASEAN chairmanship, saying cohesive and response. However, the statement issued by Prime Minister Phu needs further socialization inside ASEAN due to the following detail. Wishes to focus on fostering the bloc's sustainable cohesiveness through consolidating solidarity and unity, increasing economic connectivity, further intensifying the values and identities of the ASEAN community, improving the efficiency of ASEAN's apparatus, and stepping up relations with the bloc's partners in the global community. In my opinion, I'm the product of the Indonesian New Order. The word bloc is very sensitive, especially for Indonesian leaders who are at the moment at the age of 50s and 60s, because we used to be under the meaning that blocs mean the direct competition between bloc, and the winner will survive, the survival of the fittest, something. So I think this needs to be better explained to ASEAN colleagues, especially ASEAN 5. And then there's a challenge in this case. Vietnam is facing strong critics from the world media on the issue of religious freedom and the freedom of association. And there is also a concern that Vietnam may use its chairmanship to express its concern towards PRC on bilateral sea border and South China Sea. And also, we have border dispute with Vietnam. Vietnam has a system called TALWEC, and Indonesia is relying on the UN clause. I think we have a teacher of Harapan in Jala. TALWEC against UN clause, but I do not know if Vietnam will introduce this issue in its capacity as the chairman of ASEAN sometime next year. The next one is the need to reflect on the main outcomes of issues arising from the 35th ASEAN Summit and the related meetings and how this will impact ASEAN in 2020. I recall my teacher, Prof. Lifulima, over there saying that at the moment ASEAN resembles a Christmas tree. Not so tall, but so many bulbs over there and a lot to focus. So, in my opinion, ASEAN needs to be more focused. For example, how to deal with the idea of ASEAN centrality. I think we haven't had any detailed explanation here. What is the meaning of ASEAN centrality? And then, also ASEAN is surrounded with the competing ideas such as Indo-Pacific, Belt and Road Initiative, IPEC, TPP, and RCEP. In all these 5 institutions, Vietnam is there. And my colleague Aleksius Jemadu was correct that Vietnam may have a capacity, but to glue them for the sake of its own national interests, we do not know yet. But please remember, when we talk about APEC, please recall the Bogor Summit in 1994. There was an idea of fast track for the developed economies for year 2010, and then slow track for the developing economies for year 2020. We are now living in the year 2020. I think Vietnam may use this idea to remind our ASEAN partners to be quick with their economic liberalization. Number 3, ASEAN needs to do more than just talking, but walking through the long and winding road ahead. In this case, the chairman's 7-page statement needs further socialization inside the member countries, especially the younger generation. If I may share with you my personal opinion, Indonesian media, but we do not pay a serious attention on what happened last month in Thailand. Less public discussion on television and radio. What does it mean? I do not know. Is ASEAN becoming less relevant? Well, ASEAN ASEAN subject is the compulsory subject in Indonesian universities. But there is a danger of losing relevance if we are not careful, because there are competing institutions around Indo-Pacific Belt and Road Initiative, APEC, TPP, and RCEP. So in this case, we need to work harder. Next, okay, to produce a possible recommendation. Number 1, Considering the rising importance of the millennials inside ASEAN, along with the growth of the digital economy of the 10 member countries, it is important to encourage the growth of the local tech unicorns and also training of trainers in the areas of digital literacy, as well as supporting the growth of small and medium enterprises operated by the millennials. This is something we need to be aware, because millennials, we need to check further, but do they really know ASEAN? Do they feel themselves attached with ASEAN? Because when I check my students, not many know the anthem of ASEAN. Yes, Ibu, not many of us know and memorize the ASEAN anthem. If I may ask the audience here to raise your hand in case you know the ASEAN anthem. Okay. Thank you, Ibu. Because if I put my finger to you and 3 fingers going back to me, actually, I cannot memorize the ASEAN anthem myself. Okay, number 2, utilizing the uncertainties following the ASEAN-China trade war. It is important to encourage ASEAN member countries to speed up local reforms and to end the remaining trade barriers in order to attract greater foreign investments into ASEAN. This is important because inside ASEAN we experience competing investment. Less investors are coming to Indonesia, but they are running to Vietnam and Cambodia. And at the same time, ASEAN as a whole, we are experiencing less competition, less attractive, because 20 years ago, the total number of investment going to ASEAN countries was double than China. Now, more investment coming to China than ASEAN countries. And then number 3, considering the impact coming from the 4th Industrial Revolution, which will threaten employment and the well-being of the baby boomers and the Generation X. It is important for ASEAN to produce specific policies aimed to empower the senior citizens in their own communities. Because when we talk about youngsters, we tend to forget, well, we still have baby boomers and also the Generation X. And in this hall, I'm seeing more Generation X than Generation Z or Millennium generation, to be honest. Meaning, inside Indonesia, millennials are yet to come forward. And then, number 4, it is important to spread ASEAN security bonus to the Korean Peninsula by promoting further summit. In this case, we need our own initiative to involve top leaderships in DPRK, ROK, the USA, and the PRC. And this summit is expected to be done, to be conducted in one capital city of ASEAN countries. Summits have been done in Vietnam and Singapore. I think Indonesia is the most prepared country to do this. And then number 5, learning from the close association of the earlier generation of ASEAN leaders. It is time to establish a certified advanced leadership school in order to prepare the future leaders of ASEAN to possess similar vision on the future of ASEAN. To be honest, I'm looking at the experience done in Lemhanas, Indonesia, where foreign senior staff they come to Lemhanas, and then once they finish their assignment, they can talk with the Indonesian counterpart at the same part, but they understand also the similar ideas. So this kind of idea could be introduced that ASEAN in the future to establish an advanced leadership school of ASEAN. I think this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rezasyah, for the very insightful presentations. So we now have about 20 minutes or so for Q&A. So I'd like to open the floor to our audience. If you have any questions for our three speakers, please raise your hands and we'll have mics sent round. If you could just raise your hand, we'll take 2 or 3. So we have Mr. Passport, Bu Nanti, Pak Hashim, and also Pak Ibrahim as well. So maybe we'll start with Ambassador Passport.
Thank you very much, all the speakers. I'm so sorry that I came late, so that I didn't listen to Ade's intervention. I'm sure that it's very useful, and I'm sure that Indonesia will support Vietnam Chairmanship as well as Thailand. And I'm very happy to be listening to the very interesting points. My question, I think both of you, academic, has indicated Vietnam a very fast lane economic development. Do you think that during Vietnam Chairmanship next year, would Vietnam be able to graduate as a member of the CLMV? Because they are now part of the CLMV due to the fact that they come after the 5, founding father of ASEAN. And especially Aleksius, you have definitely indicated that for Vietnam, when it was part of the ASEAN member, it uses ASEAN as like a stepping stone for Vietnam to grow faster. So for the ASEAN awareness for the CLMV is a little bit higher than the 5 founding fathers. So I can understand that point. So my question is to the academics, would you think that during Vietnam Chairmanship, Vietnam will have the possibility to graduate from CLMV status? Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Hashim?
Thank you very much. I have a very simple question. Is there any prospect that ASEAN, under the leadership of Vietnam, will develop a much more feasible cooperative relationship between ASEAN and SAARC and Shanghai cooperation, the triangular relationship in our region at this moment? Is there any prospect for that or not? Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Hashim. And Bu Nanti from the Ministry of
Minister.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Nanti Murani from Florida Ministry for Economic Affairs. Thank you for all speakers for very insightful and very inspiring presentation for today. Now my first question is that, given all what the speaker have already say about this Vietnam priority chairmanship, how do you think these priorities will contribute to the 2025 IEC agenda, for example, ASEAN agenda or ASEAN Economic Community agenda? Because I'm from economic pillar, so sometimes when I speak, I more focus on the economics. So yeah, how do you see that? And my second, because today I'm very thankful that all speakers speak, actually not only for next year for the ASEAN, I mean for the Vietnam, actually provide very insightful of the future of ASEAN actually. So given that now we are in the mid of ASEAN 2025, we are halfway, so 5 more years, and we are also from 2025 about 5 more years to our SDGs, for example. In the what do you think ASEAN should prioritize in the next 5 and 10 years? I think this is very important, this insight, given that Indonesia will be the chairman of the 2023 ASEAN Chairmanship. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bu Nanti. And then I think we have Ibrahim Yusuf.
Thank you very much, Chair. My point is, apart from the successful or the achievements of Vietnam during the last 5 years on economic terms. I think the quality for the chairmanship is the quality of leadership should be transformative. Could Vietnam be transformative in dealing with three, I think, important and pertinent issues relating to the extra-regional powers? That is IOP, ASEAN's outlook on Indo-Pacific, relating with the external powers, especially United States concepts, contending concept and with China. Second point, LCEP, how Vietnam could transform the region by bringing in India. Because in the Jakarta Post 2 days ago said, Japan said, I will not signing the negotiating text in Vietnam in 2020 if India would be included. So, how, you know, the leadership of Vietnam at the time, because if we look to the academic terms, there are three types of leaderships. One's intellectual leaderships, provided Indonesia already, and then entrepreneurial leaderships and structural leaderships. How did in these three specific terms, you know, Vietnam could play, and then the environment, how China dealing with the strategy, the new contour of emerging regional strategy competition, trilateral, India, China, India, Japan, and Japan, China. I think it is the environment, strategic environment in which the chairmanship of Vietnam will be holding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think we had one last question. The gentleman on the front left.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. I'm Sarwono from social media. I do believe that Indonesia could do better economic growth better than Vietnam because we have rich resources and we have rich human capital. But my question is, as per your knowledge, what we can learn from economic growth in Vietnam? Do you think it is possible for Indonesia government could apply or copy paste the similar rule and regulation same like in Vietnam to grow our economy? If the answer is yes, how we do it? If your answer is no, why? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have 5 questions from the floor on whether Vietnam can graduate from the CLMV, the prospect of cooperation between ASEAN, the Shanghai Cooperation, and SAARC. How will the Vietnam's agenda next year help with the ASEAN Vision 2025? Vietnam dealing with the extra-regional powers in terms of the Indo-Pacific, the RCEP, as well, and there's a question about whether Indonesia could copy from Vietnam. So we have 5 questions from the floor. Maybe I'd like to invite Aleksius to address some of the questions.
Thank you for the question. Very good and interesting question. First, I want to address Ambassador Professor Hasim Jalal. This is a good question because this is currently that we are facing in ASEAN. Let me give a little bit background. As I said, there are many countries, actually it's not only country, many regional organizations also want to engage with ASEAN to have a regular dialogue meeting, not only, especially on the foreign ministerial meeting. Recently, this year, Indonesia, Ibu Foreign Minister now asked ASEAN Secretariat to examine, give assessment how our interaction with the regional organization, because there's so many request meeting, there is a meeting, but sometimes, most of them, there is no implementation, no follow-up. That is we are worried. Meeting is good, and sometimes the presence of from the other side, the presence is not in the high-ranking official, even foreign minister, and usually they have the meeting in the sideline of UNGA, where all foreign ministers of this regional organization, including ASEAN, are there. So this what we already assessed, and unfortunately, only one regional organization outside EU, of course, we are already only Pacific Alliance, who are very committed, engaged with us. We have a plan of action, and we are implementing the plan of action. The rest, especially some, nothing happened for the past few years. I can understand, at least it's my personal view, this is not Indonesia member, because there's competition within them. On the Shanghai Cooperation, just recently, actually in the past, Shanghai Cooperation already have some kind of relationship with ASEAN, but not as ASEAN membership, but between Secretariat, SCO Secretariat and ASEAN Secretariat. There is already engagement. Again, they have already plan of action, and we already ASEAN Secretariat already response, come up with the draft of the what should be done doing between ASEAN Secretariat and CSO Secretariat. But again, unfortunately, there is no response from Shanghai Cooperation Secretariat up till now. Although the Shanghai Cooperation now requests to have engagement with us, the CPR, but we have to see what's the. And also, unfortunately, some of the regional organizations, unfortunately as well, not all have embassy here. If they have embassy here, like CSO, so they can engage with us, the CPR. We are here, the 10 of us here, but unfortunately some of us. So this also probably we need to encourage some member of the regional organization, like PA Pacific Alliance, all are here. So we are better engagement and coordination. Second on the asking about especially economic agenda, SDG, 4 to 5 years. The most important that Vietnam do, and also the continent other countries after Vietnam, Brunei, and Cambodia, is about technology. Industrial Revolution 4.0. Because as Professor Teuku and Aleksius already mentioned, we have to think what in the past year, especially our millennials, what they have to do. All will be, even now, our Indonesian government thinking to that the civil servant that no need to work 5 days now. Even they think of Friday is holiday as well. They can work at home, So what's happened? This is also negative. There is negative impact, of course. But it's also opportunity that the current job, conventional job, there will be new creating jobs. So how we address this, how to make the young generation, and especially this is again my personal, what we see around the world. There's a lot of demonstration against government, and initiated by who? By the young. Why? Because the uncertainty what happened in the 5 years. Because the government is not prepared what will be their future. So it is also the homework for us, Ade and ASEAN, thinking what we are going to do with our generation in 5 years. And Pak Teuku, we are baby boomers, 50, 60, and I always consider that I'm already there. Although they are so my senior, my mentor, Ambassador President Jalal, Pak Ibrahim Almuttaqi, I also consider I am already dinosaurs. I don't know how to utilize social media as well. This my answer on Vietnam about Ibrahim. This is a tough challenge of how Vietnam to navigate with all the powers, especially under ASEAN Indo-Pacific outlook. But for me, at least from my understanding, all our partners, they support the oil, the ASEAN Pacific, the principle, because the most important us in the out is our inclusivity. If we are inclusive, we are not against anyone, and rest assured, I know there is many initiatives by others, but if there's those initiatives not supported or not through ASEAN, I don't think they will be fully successful, because ASEAN can be considered as very neutral and accommodating. So this is my comment. And lastly, about Vietnam regulation. That's why Pak Presiden Joko Widodo is frustrated with our bureaucrat. You know how to streamline our regulation. It's possible, and I do believe with our democratization, because this is also 5 priority during will be in the 5 years is about democratic, how to streamline regulation. And actually, one more thing I miss, 2 things I miss. One is Indonesia expectation with Vietnam chairmanship, because Aleksius Jemadu raised that we are encouraging, although already agreed, to review the term of reference of ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights. We want to have more protection element in the term reference, which is now is always criticized by academicians, by CSO, that the ICAR still lack, but we Indonesia is continues promote this to be reviewed, and next year there will be review, and to have better term of reference on ICAR with protection element. I think it's about all. I think I will answer, and anything later on, I will. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ambassador. Maybe next, Aleksius.
Thank you. It's always good to speak after Bapak Ambassador, because all the difficult questions. Yeah, thank you, Pak. So I think Vietnam deserves to have a new category, and I think Vietnam wants to make the external world know that its system has worked very well, because for a political regime like this, it's very, very important for them to win recognition from the international community that such system is legitimate, not only in the eyes of its people, but also the external world. Just because it's very difficult to find an alternative to that system, they stick to that, and the only choice is to make it successful. So my impression is that they seek to win that recognition in order to strengthen the legitimacy that this system is acceptable, it works very well, and we want to continue with how it works, and there's no way other system can replace it. And I think that Vietnam wants to go to that category, yeah, in order to strengthen its position. Why I say so? You see that Vietnam is one of ASEAN members who has the courage to go to the CPTPP, not the only one, but which is domestic system, unique like that. It has the courage to go that way. It means that they are not afraid of competing with even developed countries. As we know that CPTPP is more aggressive than RCEP, and Vietnam will continue to improve their economy and also to adopt new technologies. And the good thing about them is that political stability is not a big issue. That is the problem with our country, but decision making here can very time consuming, and sometimes we get frustrated with that because you know you have to bargain with this group and that political constituent, and this is the nature of democracy. That's why our democracy is not enough. We have to add to that good governance and also culture of efficiency. Otherwise, we waste our time just to negotiate political interest between one political leaders and the other political leaders. And that is always what is happening in a democracy. Very time consuming, yeah. Sometimes people get frustrated with that. But that is the choice that we have made. So there's no way we can, it has come to a point of no return. But I think we need to add to that other new thing so that democracy, yeah, democratic decision making may not hamper all your efforts to be more efficient, to avoid the high cost economy. And I understand why Chinese companies prefer to go to Vietnam because everything is predictable. But in Indonesia, yeah, because of our democratic decision making, it is more complicated. That's why we, in order to reproduce Vietnam's success, we need to add something to our democracy, yeah, to make our economy more efficient, yeah, to have priorities, yeah, not to waste our time with all the political discussion that has no end. What is the point of discussing without real benefits for the people? Yeah. So I think it's not easy to build political stability in democratic country, but at the same time, it has some positive elements also in it. Yeah. So the social political cost of our way to build stability, I think, is not as high as countries where they build political stability on the basis of a more centralized system or one-party system. Politically, it is efficient, but then the social political cost of it can be very high, especially in this multi-ethnic country like Indonesia. So I think yes, efficiency is important. Yeah, good regulations are important, but not at the expense of the democratic framework that we have built. Yeah? I think we have made that choice. Now, regarding the effectiveness of regional cooperation, this is what we learned from theory, is the effectiveness of regional cooperation very much depends on its level of institutionalization. And I think that is the problem of regional cooperation initiated by small countries and middle power countries like ASEAN. So we cannot expect much in terms of its institutionalization, because all these great powers, when it comes to issues like that related to their strategic interest, I believe, yeah, from history we learned that they began to speak not normative language, but language of power politics. When their strategic interests are, disturbed by the situation. So, level of institutionalization is very important to understand the effectiveness of whether regional cooperation can be effective or not. Yeah? And when it is based on voluntary basis, or it is based on normative exhortation, I don't think that we can expect much from that. Yeah? It is good for to have norms that can be accepted to every participant, but then you cannot go beyond that. Yeah? That is the nature of international relations when we deal with the strategic interests of the great powers. So I think that is as far as I'm concerned, I will deal with that.
Sure. Thank you very much. And maybe for the final word to Teuku.
Thank you very much, Ibu Ambassador. With regard to Vietnam, have they graduated from CLMV? I think earlier on I mentioned that Vietnam is a fast learner. I think without having to declare, I think they have passed the CLMV because they are learning from the Singapore. No need to explain your real status, for example. Anybody from Singapore here? If you ask Singapore, what is your status? Developed country or developing country? Well, they say we are a developing country. This is a very nice word. Developed, developing country. So I think Vietnam is also learning from this kind of tradition. They have passed the CLMV status. They are on their own. I think they're considering their economic growth. They have no hesitation to say V means Vietnam. V reminds people to Winston Churchill victory. And secondly, is there any prospect for SAARC and ASEAN? This is quite strange. We do not have a close association with SAARC, even though Indonesia is what we call it, the biggest country in Southeast Asia, and India is also the biggest country in South Asia. I think for the future, for the betterment of the cooperation, I think we need to think big, start small, move fast. Think big, start small, move fast. I think try to initiate concrete cooperation with SAARC countries. For example, we need to do ASEAN SAARC scholarship, and then we need to produce, for example, a soccer team consisting of SAARC and ASEAN players. We travel around the world to socialize. Hey, we are close in this region. And then, how do you think on the ASEAN in the 2025? We are progressing actually. If we look at the Heritage Foundation data in year 2008, during that time, one country is free inside ASEAN, two countries are mostly free, and the three countries are mostly unfree, and three repressed, and Brunei Darussalam was not on the list at the time. Heritage Foundation in year 2008. And now, in year 2020, if we look at the data coming from both Bank, IMF, and UNDP, and also Heritage Foundation itself, most of us are free, but countries are categorized of CL, and they are less free, but they are beginning to be engaged under the ASEAN Economic Community. So even though we are 10, to be honest, we are still playing at different level of playing fields. And then I think SDG could become a yardstick here to check how we have grown up. And at the moment, I think inside Indonesia, I think the standard of SDG is different. Different in the island of Java. If we check the achievements of SDG, we have different kind of answers. The color is red, blue, green, yellow. We are talking about ourselves. And then, with regard to the quality of Vietnam, and then linked to RCEP, I think Indonesia has a better position than Vietnam in engaging both India and China. And in this regard, I'm looking at the possible middle powers coalition, because Indonesia cannot work alone. Indonesia should work in tandem with Australia in this case. And then for the final question, what could we learn from Vietnam? This is a challenging question. For this question, I refer to my teacher, Bapak CPF Luhur 5. Okay. Pak CPF Luhur 5, are you still here, Bapak? Okay. He mentioned, in year 1975, soon after Vietnam War, when Indonesia planned to engage Vietnam, Habibie at the time worked with the palace to identify who Vietnam is. Even though we know Vietnam, we know the story of Dinh Bien Phu, we know the story of My Lai, we know the story of 50,000 Americans dead over there. But who is really Vietnam? And surprisingly, Pak Luhur 5 mentioned at that year 1975, even though under the severity of war, Vietnam had 5,000 international PhDs in hard sciences in Vietnamese here. Repeat, 5,000 PhDs in hard sciences coming from the US and European Union, from the Europe countries. 5,000. So that's why they, even during under hardship, they maintain the quality of their human resources. And they are now a free country since 1975. You could imagine how many thousand hard sciences scholars they have, and they're coming back. They are studying overseas and they're coming back. And then that's what we need to learn from Vietnam. When I did my study overseas, I love visiting markets. Over there, I saw Vietnamese ambassadors not only visiting market exposed, but market. In Indonesia, we call it pasar kotor. Pasar kotor and market in New Zealand, in Wakefield area. Talk to the shoppers, talk to the shopkeepers. Where did you get this from? At what price? What was the basic price? And with him, there is a secretary of the ambassador doing the same things. And no wonder today the Vietnamese market, the Vietnamese, they have flooded the world markets. They are learners, but also they work very fast. I think this is the two things I personally learned from the Vietnamese, and not to mention the good governance and the good corporate governance. For example, LG. Why has LG shifted from Indonesia to Vietnam? And at the moment, LG helped produce 30% of the Vietnamese GDP. 30% of Vietnamese GDP coming from LG. If you want to have a better data, go to the FPCI, Foreign Policy Community of Indonesia. They organize a conference on Indonesia, South Korea. I get the data from 2 months ago. Then this is something we could learn from Vietnam. Luckily, I'm the last speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you very much, Pak. So we come now to the end of today's discussion. So please join me in thanking our three speakers, Pak Ade, Pak Aleksius, and Pak Rezasyah, with a round of applause. And as always, we'll be having the PowerPoint and discussion report on our website. So please do check it out in the next few days. And please feel free to enjoy the snacks and refreshments at the back of the room. And once again, thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you at our next event. So thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Kita saya siapkan.
Oh, boleh. Mau foto dulu. Oke. Ya.
Hadir dinikmati.